Gaming, I'm the Archmaster. We are now in the fourth quadrant of what constitutes this experience that we all call D&D or playing a TTRPG. The experience is a collaborative, multi-personal daydream where we're all contributing our imagination to a world. We are using the rules from an adventure game. We are telling a story with each other, and we are often role-playing. So those four quadrants, which make up this experience, is what we are discussing in this series. So now we are finally on that fourth quadrant, the role-playing part, the character, right? You picking a certain character and everything that revolves around that, right? So maybe an adventure game like D&D, a more open-ended, free-form adventure game, allows for role-playing more than Call of Duty or Monopoly, but that does not make it a role-playing game. It allows for it, it has room for it, and you're able to roleplay in that game more than you're able to roleplay in a video game or perhaps a different tabletop game like, the Game of Life or Monopoly. But that doesn't mean that it is a role-playing game. The game itself, it doesn't mean that the game is a role-playing game and that the game itself is about role-playing. And the rules themselves don't morph into rules for role-playing just because you roleplay while playing the game. Role-playing is still something that you add on top. Yes, D&D and other tabletop adventure games are especially suited for you to roleplay in because they have so much room to do it, and they allow it, and they allow player immersion, and they have so many aids to roleplaying. Maybe some games have aids, like, what's your ideals, bonds, and flaws? Those are aids to roleplaying. But that still doesn't make them roleplaying games. They are still adventure games that you can choose to roleplay in or not. You may be missing out on most of the experience if you choose not to roleplay, but you are still playing the game itself as it is written because the rules are about adventure, not roleplay. The adventure game is like bread, and then the roleplay is like butter. You can put butter on bread, and you can say, look, this bread is just like perfectly designed for butter. It says white bread. Like the package that it came in says, you should eat this bread with butter, right? That's like saying, hey, the rulebook of D&D says you should roleplay. Well, yeah, the package on the bread says eat this with butter, but does that make the bread butter? Does it just turn into butter because it tells you to eat butter with it? No, the bread is still bread. It's still an adventure game. That's all it is. And the butter is the role-playing. You should add them together. It's delicious when you add them. It's wonderful when you combine them. That's how it should be. That's how everyone intends it to be. But they aren't the same thing. Just because everyone adds butter to bread doesn't mean that butter and bread are the same thing. And it doesn't mean you can look at a slice of bread and be like, oh, look, butter and bread. It's like, no, that's just bread. You may have never seen bread all by itself, but it exists, right? That's the thing that a lot of people don't understand. It's that, well, because everyone combines these all the time, they're the same. It's like, no, they're not. You can play an adventure game, you can play D&D without role-playing. Here's another thing. I had a comment just recently where someone said something like, let's see if I can remember this. It's like, hey, when I'm role-playing, I'm being a different character. The only way that you can, fail D&D is if you didn't roleplay, right? Because D&D is a role-playing game. I'm always pretending to be another character in D&D. And as long as I'm pretending to be another character, I'm role-playing, right? Okay, no, that's actually not true. You can roleplay yourself. This is a family-friendly, channel, but did you know some people roleplay in the bedroom? We're not going to say any more than that, but when they're doing that roleplay, they're being themselves. They're not pretending to be Bob the ogre or the dwarf and the troll. They're still pretending to be themselves, okay? But themselves in a different scenario. That is still role-playing. You're still, what role-playing is, making the decisions your character would make. There's nothing in that sentence that says your character can't be you. You're still role-playing, you're just role-playing you. That's what most starting out D&D players do, is they just play them, essentially. They like, my first character was me. I was in this kind of, not really depressed, but kind of this, edgy loner, feeling guilty, feeling like, oh man, my life is kind of hard right now. I was feeling this way, and so I made this edgy dark elf that got exiled from the underworld, and, he thought he was so smart, and, he goes out into the world and just, gets beat up in multiple ways and dies in the end, right? And I was just role-playing me, and that's still role-playing. Role-playing you is still role-playing. You don't have to play another character to role-play. Like who told you that? I don't know if it's YouTubers or blogs or who knows, but people get these ideas in their heads about what role-playing is, what adventure is. That adventure doesn't necessarily have to have danger. It's like, bro, of course it does. That's kind of like innate to adventure itself. And you may look up some modern definition on YouTube about, well, this thing says adventure is only exciting or unexpected. It's like, I'm not talking about the 21st century Google definition. I'm talking about what we all know adventure means, right? We're talking about adventure games. We're talking about fantasy adventure, delving into dungeons and all that. If there's no danger, if you're going into dungeons or exploring the world and there's no danger, it's not adventurous, is it? Right? Like, we all know what adventure is. Don't try to go around with semantics. Like, adventure is dangerous and it's unknown, and you have to have freedom to make choices within that unknown, dangerous scenario, right? Anyway, I really don't know where all these different definitions of things are coming from, but that's why I'm here. That's why this channel is here, to clear up the confusion so people actually have a unified, working definition of these terms. Because, if simply describing something going on is collaborative storytelling, then everything's collaborative storytelling. If the definition applies to anything and everything, it's not a very good definition, right? Same thing if role-playing is just playing another character. Bro, that's fantasy. That's simply just fantasizing. That's make-believe. Pretending you're another character is what we call make-believe, or just playing pretend. If I play pretend that I'm a soldier, that's not role-playing. I'm playing pretend that I'm a soldier, right? If I make believe that I'm Superman, I was like, oh wow, what if I was Superman? I could fly, I could shoot laser beams out of my eyes, oh, that'd be so cool. I'm playing pretend. I'm pretending I'm a different character. I can imagine that I'm flying over the city looking for crime and whatnot. That's not role-playing, that's just make-believe, that's just playing pretend. Role-play is when I actually restrict myself to make the decisions my character would make based on the actual attributes and personality of the character. Me just pretending that I'm Superman and still acting like me is not role-playing. Pretending you're another character and just doing the things that you would do, like, oh yeah, I'm gonna make a dwarf in the world, but it's really just me, and I'm gonna go out and do whatever I want. That's not role-playing. You're pretending to be another character, but make-believe and play pretend are not role-playing. Role-playing is this elevated concept. It's actually something you have to put work into. It's actually a separate thing. And people get so confused. They think role-playing applies to everything. They think collaborative storytelling applies to everything. They think gaming applies to everything. Like, when you sit down to play D&D, you're not actually playing D&D the whole time. A lot of times you're just telling a collaborative story. When you're doing your collaborative storytelling, or when you're role-playing with your buddies and whatnot, you're not playing D&D. D&D doesn't actually have any rules for that. D&D doesn't cover that. You can sit and tell a collaborative story with your buddies before D&D was invented. This isn't contingent on D&D. You're not playing D&D when you do that. People have been sitting down and playing collaborative stories forever, right? They're telling stories forever. And just because you play something doesn't mean that it's a game either. It's not a role-playing game because you play. You can play the guitar. You can push play on a movie, right? You can play lots of things. It doesn't make them games. A game actually has structure and rules and challenge, right? It's the voluntary undertaking of unnecessary challenges, right? There has to be a challenge, right? Danger. In one form or another. So anyway, clearing up confusion about all the various definitions of all these terms and actually trying to get a unified, mutually agreed upon version so people can actually play the games they want instead of being so confused as to, why does this person say it's a collaborative storytelling game? This person is all about role-playing, this person is all about adventure, and this guy wants a believable world. Are they all playing D&D? It's like, maybe. Next video. Anyway, thanks for watching. Like and subscribe, feed the algorithm, please. I have a Patreon and a Discord channel, and God bless.